Welcome to the CPTM, Commonwealth Partnership for Technology Management, Smart Partners Hub. Today is 2nd of June 2017 and it's Friday, so as usual in the last few years and as is possible, we have the usual email that is being sent to you, which has selected activities that our members, our smart partners, want to share with one another, but also which are which is based on what our chairman Omar was saying lately, on a spirit of cooperative self-help. So in other words, if we are alerting you that one of our smart partners from Australia, Professor Roy McLeod, thought that you should know that the Royal Academy of Australia is having a very important and very useful get-together on global water and so on. And he does so once because he looked to see how that get-together came about, who is involved, what is the process of going forward. But also he relates the news that, or the attention that he wants to ask you to pay to the Global Water Conference in Australia, because a bit earlier in the year, a Club of Rome activity took place in relation to water, and the issue of water is, as we know, one of the most critical issues that one discusses about. So, and smart partners have been invited to get their views and to participate to that meeting in Rome. So here is how our so-called Friday communications to you and from you to everybody else in a cooperative self-help, in a typical smart partnership way, comes about. So today, by the way, thanks to Roy for sending the information, and we will continue to get feedback from yourselves and probably feedback from Roy on what has happened at that meeting. In the meantime, you can contact Roy directly. But there are three major issues today that I would like to point out. One, that it looks so relevant, it looks so undeniably great success, the emergence of the smart partnership movement with the CPTM as a background institutional framework in the last 20 years or so, in relation to what is we are all globally and nationally or regionally exposed daily or almost probably hour by hour. Events related to Brexit, to Paris Climate Convention, and events to do with digital landscape, events to do with the cyberware war, and cyberware too, etc., etc. Those things that are taking place, they come into a complex, chaotic almost way to our attention. And the only way probably one can make sense of what is taking place is to be part of a group, a movement that is progressive and that promotes the kind of ideals and missions like the Smart Partnership movement. And the Smart Partnership movement does not promote its ideals in vacuum. The ideals are being continuously fed in, and the vision of the manifesto of the limitless opportunities fed in by the many things that our members are being involved in, which we're trying to highlight them into what is called annual Smart Partners Cooperative Framework in each and every country, each and every hub or node, and Smart Partners link. So today we are going to share with you the kind of Smart Partnership and Smart Partners activities are taking place under the umbrella of the National Economic Consultative Forum from Harare. Also, we're going to share with you the objectives that the Smart 29ers, the link of the youth link in Uganda, are trying to reinitiate in the context of the current climate. And we're going to also share with you the fact that the Smart Partnership movement overall as a dynamic interaction between various processes of Smart Partnership activities in, as we call them, inclusive type of initiatives related to, led by central bank governors, or led by progressive chief executive of Bureau of Standards, led by national statistics, people specialized in data, and above all by those who continue to evolve approaches related to maintaining a vision, national and regional vision in their countries regionally, and therefore probably globally, contributing to a global vision. So the chair of the Smart Partnership movement, as we know, President of Uganda, on behalf of the Council of Patrons, he has taken a view that in the last 2 years, and since Dar es Salaam, most successful dialogue under the umbrella of leveraging the technology for smart partnership and economic growth, he took the view that it is time to initiate, to articulate the aims of the Smart Partnership Movement 2.0. We are in 2017 and we're going towards the next 20 years from now on. So there are new dynamics, new articulations based on the same principles which recently Tanshioma and together with colleagues and together with the chair, President of Uganda, they've been articulated in London, and we're going to share them with you in this email. So the view he took was that it's probably time to have a get-together, a Smart Partnership International think tanking dialogue, which will be able to articulate these new dimensions within which the Smart Partnership movement is evolving and is becoming more and more relevant. And together with that, to take the CPTM, the Commonwealth Partnership Technology Management, which is the maintaining the bones and the kind of anatomy of the smart partnership movement into a new mode, into a CPTM 2.0, so to speak. So that probably is going to be the main objective of and focus that the chair of the movement, the chairman of the CPTM, and all the smart partners are going to be called to be part of it from now, June 2017, up to June 2018 and beyond. Now, to do so, the integrated approach to inclusive growth, which has been evolving based on smart partnership, with as we refer to as 6 inclusive initiatives, are going to be evolving and bringing their own contribution towards that smart partnership think tanking international dialogue, a get-together, very focused and very strategic, which needs to take place sometime before the end of the year, most likely end of October, beginning of November, and most likely probably in Uganda. We have only very few months towards that, but it will take place before the Commonwealth Summit is taking place at the beginning of April in 2018 in Britain. And obviously the Commonwealth Summit, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, will bring together all the governments in the Commonwealth, majority of them, in fact, out of the 53, being emerging economies, large and very, very small, islands or otherwise landlocked. They will all have one particular agenda, in addition to the usual intergovernmental type of preoccupations when they meet. And we shared with you that the overall umbrella might be around the issue of renewal. Now, it's a renewal of the Commonwealth. In the Commonwealth is a recognition of a similar nature as our CPTM members and our chair of the Smart Partnership Movement realized that it has to be taking place within our own context. So the renewal of the Smart Partnership Movement, the renewal of the CPTM will take in consideration the overall renewal in the Commonwealth of the Commonwealth. There are some main themes, of course, and there will always be peace and security, and that's what it is. It's a highlight of trade and prosperity, resilience and climate change, governance and value for the overall Commonwealth Summit. Within that context, quite a number of dimensions of the Smart Partnership Movement supported by CPTM will be also taking place, and we will contribute to the overall success of the Commonwealth Heads of Government next year, and the CPTM 2.0, Smart Partnership Movement 2.0, after that. Nevertheless, there are limits. We believe in the movement for years and years, and it has been all the time renewed, that message, that through smart partnership there are limitless opportunities. There are limits, and we're pushing the limits. Since we started, limits of ignorance, limits to growth, which we picked up from one of our founder, Alex King, Limits to Growth, and with it the Club of Rome issue. There are limits to freedom. The other day, over the weekend, in Financial Times, a whole page was dedicated to Dr. Mahathir, Tun Mahathir, one of our founders of the ideals of smart partnership. An interview which was taken in Kuala Lumpur, in fact, in his bakery, The Loaf. The title of the interview is probably the main thing that made valuable the signal in the Financial Times of the idea that freedom has limits. So we are dealing with limits. We are dealing limits to politics, collective politics, limits to individual politics, limits to institutions which have been set up in a particular context, but they become totally outdated. This is not new anyway. If you were to take simply the extraordinary announcement yesterday in relation to the Paris Climate Convention, well, in 1967, before the Club of Rome came about with their first articulation of limits to growth, in 1967, one of the small manifesto as it came about from Europe which made a big impact, was called Le Défi Américain by Jean-Jacques Schreiber. You look it up, American Challenge. It was 1967. We are in 2017 and we're looking beyond. So, yes, there are limitless opportunities to do with the incredible development of the digital landscape, which brings in tremendous challenges on security particularly, and cybersecurity, and disruptions in the institutional frameworks, like the central bank governors who are going to consider, central banks that are going to consider again this year, our group, on 29th of June, at the CPTM hub, probably in this particular garden, CPTM garden networking room. They are going to consider those limits, but also the opportunities that the digital landscape gives the central banks, particularly of those who are in emerging economies. There is a great hope that limitless, through smart partnership, limitless opportunities will stimulate our smart partners and others who are going to wish to become part of the movement and our group, stimulate them to look at the limits through the perspective of enhancing the limitless opportunities. I suppose there are a number of things that usually we are kind of highlighting you or reminding you that is taking place. National elections to those countries that are part of our movement currently. Get together of international worthwhile organizations or other movements, like we wanted to let you know that next week there is a World Future Studies Federation that they meet in Norway, and they talk about mankind to 2050. Human mankind in 2050. So please look at it. there is so much to look into it, to click, to link, to video, to be instant. But what we're trying to do through the interest, activities of our members, and to select as relevant and to maintain a collective intellectual equity which makes people feeling part of something progressive. So I suppose the only other thing probably I would like to say are two items. One, probably CPTM. We need to look at CPTM. How did it come about since 1984? And the reason why I was particularly reminded about the fact that one may need to know the genesis of CPTM, not institutional, not the multilateral context of Commonwealth, heads of government and so on, but how did it really come about? And I was reminded about how Club of Rome came about, really, which most of the time is forgotten. And Katrin Peckham, again, one of our members, Professor Katrin Peckham, sent me an article which was just published on the genesis of Club of Rome, and which was born, Club of Rome, he says, was born in the corridors of OECD. Now that was forgotten. Club of Rome is, after all, was a transnational, formed of transnational networks. And it was part of the 1970s in global history. There's a young fellow whom I'm going to talk in any minute, Matthias Schmelzer from Leipzig, who wrote that article. But if we were to think in terms of CPTM, how was really born, and the real forgotten origin or unmentioned very often origins, it was actually born in the corridors of Economic Affairs Division in Marlborough House, in Commonwealth Secretariat, combining science, technology, economics, and politics, with individuals inspired in a transnational network, going beyond the institutional framework that they were given to work from. So, and lastly, we showed compassion, and we are usually very alert to those who are part of the family of the smart partnership movement. Sri Lanka, many countries, but in Sri Lanka, they were very significant disasters because of the current floods. It affected a lot of infrastructure in the south and in the capital, in Colombo. So we did actually, on behalf of our movement, send a message to the government, the Foreign Affairs. Also, we mentioned that if there is anything we could do in the movement to assist in their own plan of disaster preparedness plan, we would be ready to do so. So as soon as we receive a feedback, I will let you know. So all the best and have a nice weekend.